when a strange number tore through the silence in the dead of night. My first instinct was to ignore it. In this sunless city, a late-night call usually means one of two things: betrayal or death. But my thumb hovered over the red button for a moment, an unspeakable intuition, or perhaps the pull of fate, making me swipe green instead. The voice on the other end belonged to a woman professional, yet unable to hide a tremor. "Is this Mr. Morini?" she asked. "I'm Patricia, a nurse at St. Jude's Hospital. I'm calling about a woman named Sophie Valentin." Sophie. The name was like an ice-coated dagger, instantly piercing through the layers of defense I had meticulously built over 30 years in the dark corners of this sinful city. Crustaven. My body went rigid, the hand holding the whiskey glass as heavy as lead. What happened to her? My voice was as cold as a bullet, each word laced with gunpowder. The nurse paused, the chaotic background noise of the emergency room filtering through the phone, the beeping of monitors, shouts of medical jargon, the mechanical hum of a ventilator like a distant war. "She has been shot, sir. 2 bullets. She is in surgery right now. We're trying to save her." The nurse's voice was hesitant yet crystal clear. "Mr. Morini," in her delirium. She kept repeating your name. Besides her mother in Puerto Rico, you're the only contact we found in her personal belongings. I shot to my feet, the expensive chair screeching against the floor. Have you ever experienced a moment when the entire world goes silent, leaving only the sound of your own heart hammering against your ribs? If your answer is yes, tell me in the comments, because in that instant, I felt I wasn't alone. My second-in-command, Leon, immediately looked at me, his eyes filled with questions. But this was no time for explanations. "I'm on my way," I growled into the phone. "Keep her alive, whatever it takes. Money is no object. Get me the best surgeon in the city, even if you have to drag them out of bed. Do you understand?" After getting her confirmation, I hung up and looked at Leon. "Cancel everything, all of it. I don't care if the mayor himself is waiting for me. Push it." "Boss, what is wrong?" Leon's voice was laced with unease. "Sophie's been shot." The name meant nothing to most of my men, but Leon had been with me long enough. He read everything in my suddenly changed expression. He had never seen me, Leo Morini, look scared. Angry, yes, cold of course, but fear. That was a first. That night, have you ever raced against time for someone who held your heart in suspense? Have you ever felt each second stretch into a century, with only faster echoing in your mind? The road to St. Jude's felt like a lifetime. My driver, Carlos, turned the black Maybach into a phantom, weaving through the empty late-night streets, ignoring every traffic law like a bloodthirsty shark. I sat in the back, my hands clenched into fists, my jaw tight enough to grind my teeth. Who would dare touch her? Who was stupid enough, arrogant enough, to touch the one woman I didn't even dare to get close to? Sophie Valentin. The name was like a beam of light that had accidentally broken into my dark world. 6 months ago, my sister's son, my little nephew, was admitted to St. Jude's with sepsis from pneumonia. That 4-year-old boy was the closest thing I had to flesh and blood of my own in this world. For 2 full days and nights, our whole family stood vigil outside the pediatric ICU, and that was when I first saw Sophie. She was working a double shift, her dark hair pulled into a neat bun, her faded scrubs adorned with cartoon pins to coax a smile from the pain-racked children. But what truly captured me were her eyes. Those warm brown eyes seemed to see through my expensive suit, my cold mask, and the menacing reputation that followed me like a shadow. She looked at me and saw just a man, terrified of losing someone he loved. "He is going to be okay," she had said softly to me in the hallway that day, her hand briefly touching my arm. It was the first time in years someone had touched me without permission. "I've seen worse cases pull through. Your nephew is a little fighter. I can see it in his eyes." Like a drowning man, I asked her, "How do you know?" She offered a gentle smile. "Because he has your eyes. And my gut tells me you're not a man who gives up easily." She was right. My nephew made a miraculous recovery, largely thanks to Sophie tirelessly fighting for additional treatments for him, refusing to let the exhausted doctors see him as just another case file. When I tried to thank her with a check large enough to change an ordinary person's life, she pushed it back with a gentle but firm resolve. "Donate it to the hospital if you wish," she said. "I didn't save your nephew for money. I saved him because it is my job. It is what we're all supposed to do." In that moment, I, Leo Morini, a man who built his empire on the creed that everything has a price, met a soul that could not be bought. The feeling was both terrifying and intoxicating. From then on, I started looking for excuses to return to St. Jude. As anonymous donations that always found their way to the pediatric wing. New equipment that mysteriously appeared in Sophie. As department, I even attended a hospital fundraiser, an event so absurd my men thought I lost my mind. But I just wanted a chance to see her in a different setting, to watch her laugh with her colleagues, to see the light on the children's faces when she appeared. I never spoke to her directly again. Perhaps it was a deeply buried instinct for self-preservation, or maybe it was a clear recognition that a woman like Sophie Valentin deserved a life 1,000 times better than my bloody world. She was light, and I was darkness. And darkness has no right to stain the light. But now, someone had shot her. Someone had dared to touch the one being I had silently and possibly considered mine. The Maybach screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance of St. Jude's before it even stopped. I was out of the car. Leon followed close behind, with 4 men fanning out to secure the perimeter. The hospital's automatic doors parted before me like the Red Sea for Moses. The on-duty staff, seeing a man in a $3,000 suit with murder in his eyes, wisely stepped aside. "Where is she?" I grabbed the first nurse I saw, my voice sharp. The nurse's eyes widened in recognition of my no-nonsense type. Operating room, 3rd floor, but only family. I was already storming towards the elevator, my men forming a protective V formation behind me. A security guard made a mistake. He stood in my way, raising a hand to placate me. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you," Leon smoothly intervened, flashing something that might have been a badge, but definitely wasn't a police issue, and spoke a few quick, low words. The guard's face went white, and he stepped aside without another word. The 3rd floor surgical area was a labyrinth of sterile corridors and harsh lights. As I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Nurse Patricia, the woman who had called me, waiting anxiously. She was in her 50s, with kindness in her eyes and the calm that comes from seeing too much suffering. "Mr. Morini," she said, "Dr. Richardson is still operating on Sophie. It has been 2 hours. Tell me what happened. Every detail," I commanded. Patricia glanced at the small army of men crowding the hallway behind me and made a decision. "Follow me. We can talk in the family consultation room." The room was depressingly familiar, neutral colors, strategically placed tissue boxes, a sofa designed for long waits. I had delivered devastating news to other families in rooms just like this. Now, I was on the other side of the equation. Sophie got off her shift at 11:30 p.m. Patricia began. "She always parks in the west lot. According to a witness, a black SUV was waiting by her car. 2 men got out and argued with her. Sophie looked scared but was trying to stay calm. Her voice trembled slightly. Then another person arrived. A man in a suit. The 2 men from the SUV drew their weapons. Sophie tried to run, and that is when the shots were fired. My blood ran cold. How many shots? 5 in total. 2 hit Sophie. 1 in the shoulder, 1 in the abdomen. The others." Patricia took a deep breath. "Hit the man in the suit. He is also in surgery, in critical condition. Who is he? We don't know yet. He had no ID on him." "Mr. Morini, the police think Sophie might have witnessed something. They're treating this as a planned attack, not a random incident." My mind raced. A planned attack, near St. Jude's. 2 gunmen, and a 3rd man who tried to intervene. Or was he the real target? This had all the markings of an organized hit. "But whose organization? The police want to talk to you," Patricia added carefully. "They know you have a connection to Sophie." "Let them wait," I said coldly. My connection to Sophie was minimal, carefully maintained at a distance. But in my world, even the smallest connection could be fatal. Had someone discovered my interest in her? Was this a message, a challenge to me? Or worse, had my very presence in her life, even from afar, unknowingly painted a target on her back? The thought made my knuckles turn white. If that was true, if my darkness had truly reached out and touched her light, then every single person responsible would learn what true darkness felt like. "I want to see her the moment she is out of surgery." My tone left no room for argument. "Of course. But Mr. Morini, you should know, the damage is severe. Even if Dr. Richardson can stabilize her, the next 72 hours will be critical. It is very possible." "Number," the word shot out like a bullet. "Don't say it. Don't even think it. She will live. That is not a hope. It is an order." Patricia looked at me, Perhaps with sympathy, perhaps with understanding. I've been a nurse for 30 years, Mr. Morini. I've learned one thing. A person's will to live is sometimes more powerful than any medical intervention. Sophie is a fighter, and she was calling your name. That has to mean something. I shot to my feet, unable to sit still any longer. I went to the window, looking out over the city that never truly sleeps. Somewhere out there, the people responsible for this were breathing. Living thinking they were safe. All of that was about to change. My phone vibrated. A text from my intelligence chief, Tony. Got the hospital parking lot surveillance. Sending now. I opened the video, watching the grainy black and white footage. Sophie walked to her car, her tired posture betraying another brutal shift. The black SUV pulled up, 2 men emerged, their faces partially obscured, but their body language screamed military or professional training. Then the third man arriving in a sedan, quickly approaching Sophie. The confrontation was fast. Words exchanged, a sudden draw of weapons. Sophie turned to run. Muzzle flashes bloomed. Sophie fell, and the third man went down hard, also shot. I watched it 3 times, memorizing every detail, every movement, every second. Then I forwarded the video to Tony with a simple message. Find them. I don't care how. Find them now. Mr. Morini. A new voice came from the doorway. A man in scrubs, mask pulled down to his chin, his face etched with exhaustion. Dr. Richardson. Sophie is out of surgery. We've moved her to the ICU. She is stable, but I am moving her. I interrupted. Tonight, to my private medical facility. Dr. Richardson blinked as if I had just suggested performing surgery in the back of a moving car. Sir, you don't understand. She can be moved in her condition. The next few hours. I have a private medical center with equipment that makes this place look like a field hospital. My voice was unyielding. I have surgeons on standby, and I have security that can actually protect her. Because whoever did this, doctor, they likely to try again. And this hospital, with all due respect, can stop them. The doctor stared at me like I was a madman. His scrubs were still damp with sweat, his eyes bloodshot from intense concentration. Behind him, through the ICU doors, the beeping of machines pulsed in time with Sophie's struggling heart. Mr. Morini, Dr. Richardson. His voice was filled with the practiced patience of someone dealing with a difficult family member. I know you are worried, but moving a patient like Sophie is extremely risky. Her vitals have just stabilized. It is precisely because of the abdominal trauma that she needs a more secure, better resource location. I cut in coldly, my voice dropping to a dangerous register that made those around me instinctively step back. Let me put it this way, doctor. The people who hurt Sophie are not common criminals. This was a professional hit. If they find out she is alive, they will come back to finish the job. Can your hospital security stop them? The doctor's mouth opened and closed. His gaze flickered to the near, retirement security guard outside the hallway window, whose main job was checking visitor badges and asking unruly family members to leave. I thought not. I continued. My facility has armed Special Forces security. It has surgeons poached from Johns Hopkins and the Mayo Clinic. It has equipment most hospitals can afford. And most importantly, nobody knows it exists except my people. Sophie will be safe there to recover here. She is a sitting duck. Richardson, as conviction was clearly wavering. Even if what you say is true, the medical risk of transport. The risk will be minimized by a private ambulance equipped with advanced life support systems, which is already on its way. Leon interjected smoothly from the doorway. 8 to 15 minutes. It is staffed with a full medical team, including a trauma surgeon, in case of complications en route. The doctor looked between me and Leon, a dawning realization in his eyes. You decided this before you even spoke to me. I wasn't asking for your permission, doctor. My tone softened slightly. I am asking for your cooperation, for Sophie's safety. You care about her, I can see that, so help me protect her. After a long silence, Dr. Richardson sighed, the sound of a man facing an inevitable defeat. I'll need to see your facility's credentials, and I demand that one of our own medical staff accompanies the transport and stays there for at least 24 hours. Done, I agreed instantly. Send your most trusted person. And if her condition deteriorates during transport, we bring her straight back. No arguments. Agreed. The doctor shook his head, as if he couldn't believe he was consenting to any of this. Give me 20 minutes to prepare her. Mr. Morini, if anything happens to that woman because of this decision, I will spend the rest of my life destroying you. I met his gaze without flinching. If anything happens to her, Doctor, you have to. I'll finish myself. As the doctor disappeared back into the ICU, I turned to Leon. Highest level security at the facility. 3 shifts. No one in or out without my approval. Get Tony on the gunmen. I want their names, addresses, families, where they like to get coffee. Everything. Already on it, boss. Leon tapped rapidly on his phone. One more thing. The police are here. 2 detectives. They no longer, politely requesting to speak with you. My jaw tightened. Police involvement was inevitable, but troublesome. I didn't want them meddling in my investigation, spooking the masterminds, but refusing to cooperate would only draw more suspicion. Where are they? Main building waiting room. Detectives Sarah Chen and Mike Reeves. Both clean cops, not on anyone. S payroll. Clean cops. That made things both better and worse. Better because they wouldn't be working for my rivals. Worse because they wouldn't be easily bought or intimidated. Tell them I'll give them 10 minutes after Sophie is settled. Have our lawyer on standby. After Leon left, I was alone in the consultation room. Outside, the first light of dawn was beginning to paint the eastern sky. A few hours ago, I was in my club, discussing shipping schedules and turf disputes, handling the daily business of a criminal empire. Now, everything had changed. Sophie Valentin was fighting for her life because of violence. She'd been inexplicably caught in. The irony was that I had spent months carefully keeping my distance, thinking that would keep her from the pollution of my world. Clearly, fate had other plans. My phone buzzed again. A new text from Tony, ADD the 3rd victim, Daniel Castellano. 42, lawyer. Works for Whitmore and Associates. Corporate law specialist. No obvious connection to Sophie or the shooters. Still digging. A corporate lawyer. That didn't fit the pattern of a robbery or a standard mob hit, unless he was involved in something much deeper than contract negotiations. I texted back. Find out what cases Castellano was working on, who his clients are. Turn Whitmore and Associates upside down. I want to know if they've ever worked for the families. The 5 major crime syndicates that controlled Cresthaven. Underworld. My Morini family was one, but the other families were always looking for opportunities to expand and weaken their rivals. If one of them had accidentally hit Sophie during an operation, the thought was a cold fire in my chest. Waging war on criminals who chose this life was one thing, but letting the violence spill over onto an innocent was another. It was time for some people to be reminded of the old rules about not harming civilians. Boss, Leon came running back, out of breath. The ambulance is here. Dr. Richardson is ready. They're rebringing Sophie down. I stood up immediately, straightening my jacket. I am seeing her before she is moved. I didn't say. I want to see her. Leon just nodded, leading me back toward the ICU. We took the stairs, my leather shoes taking them 2 at a time. By the time I reached the 3rd floor, a small escort had assembled. Dr. Richardson, 2 nurses, Sophie on a gurney surrounded by monitors, and my private medical team in dark blue uniforms that looked more tactical than medical. I approached the gurney slowly, afraid any sudden movement would shatter this precious, fragile scene. Sophie looked so small under the white hospital sheets, her face colorless except for the oxygen mask. Her dark hair had come loose from its bun, fanned out on the pillow. Even unconscious, even broken, there was an inherent resilience about her. She is a fighter, Dr. Richardson said quietly, coming to my side. Tougher than she looks. When will she wake up? Hard to say. Could be hours, could be days. We put her in a medically induced coma to give her body time to heal. I reached out, my hand hovering over hers for a moment before I gently took her fingertips. They were cool, but not cold, still full of life. You are going to be okay, I whispered, though I knew she couldn't hear me. I promise you, Sophie, you are going to be okay. I wanted to say more. I wanted to tell her I was sorry, that my world had hurt her after all. I wanted to tell her I would make everyone responsible regret being born. I wanted to tell her that over the past 6 months she had become something ineffably important to me. But I said nothing. I just held her cool hand for another moment, then stepped back, nodding to the medical team. Move. The transfer was executed with military precision. The private ambulance waiting at the emergency entrance was a modified Mercedes Sprinter, its interior holding more medical equipment than some rural hospitals. Dr. Richardson and Nurse Patricia climbed in, their faces a mixture of professional skepticism and grudging surprise. "This is impressive," Dr. Richardson admitted. "I told you," I said, standing outside the door. "When it comes to Sophie's care, money is no object. Whatever she needs, we buy. Whoever she needs, we hire. I'll follow in my car." As the ambulance doors closed and it pulled away slowly with a police escort Leon had somehow arranged, I felt the weight of the past few hours finally settle on my shoulders. I was exhausted, but knew I couldn't sleep even if I lay down. There was too much to do, too many pieces to move. "The detectives are getting impatient," Leon appeared at my side. "It is almost dawn. If you are going to talk, do it now, before they make things more difficult." I glanced at my watch. 5:47 a.m. In another life, I might be waking up to start a day of legitimate business. Instead, I smelled of hospital disinfectant, running on adrenaline and rage, about to talk to the police about a shooting I didn't commit but desperately wanted solved. "Get the lawyer on a conference call," I instructed. "Make it clear I will cooperate fully with the investigation. I want the people who hurt Sophie found and prosecuted." I paused, a cold smile touching my lips. "Well, found at least. What happens after that depends on how fast the police are." Leon understood immediately. If the police found the shooters first, it would be arrest, trial, and a long judicial process. If I found them first, it would still be justice, just faster and more thorough. In the main building S waiting room, I met Detectives Sarah Chen and Mike Reeves. Detective Chen was a sharp Asian woman in her 40s with piercing eyes. Reeves was taller, broad-shouldered, with a face that had seen too much of humanity's ugliness. They both stood when I entered, their stances professionally wary. "Mr. Morini," Detective Chen's tone was neutral. "Thank you for speaking with us. We have some questions about Sophie Valentin and last night's shooting." "Of course, Detective," I replied smoothly, motioning for them to sit. "But I must state up front, I wasn't there. I doubt I can be of much help." "Let's start with your relationship with Miss Valentin," Reeves said, pulling out a notebook. "Hospital staff says you've been a regular visitor these past few months. Anonymous donations, equipment purchases, attending a fundraiser. That is a lot of investment for someone you claim not to know well." "I didn't say I don't know her," I corrected. "Sophie saved my nephew's life. I am grateful. The donations were my way of showing gratitude to the hospital and her pediatric unit. Nothing more." Detective Chen leaned forward slightly. "And yet, they called you after she was shot. You are listed as an emergency contact in her phone under the name Leo. Not Mr. Morini, or so, and so, as uncle, just Leo. That sounds like more than just gratitude." That information hit me internally. Sophie had listed me as an emergency contact when? Why? We had only ever exchanged a few polite conversations in a hospital corridor. "I am as surprised as you are, Detective," I answered honestly. "Sophie and I have spoken only a handful of times. Perhaps she had her reasons. Or you are closer than you are letting on," Reeves insinuated, in a tone I didn't appreciate. Just then my lawyer, Catherine Walsh, arrived. She swept into the waiting room like a tornado wrapped in a charcoal gray suit. "Detectives," she said, getting straight to the point. "I am Catherine Walsh, Mr. Morini. As counsel, before we proceed, I need to make one thing clear. My client is here voluntarily, out of concern for Miss Valentin, to assist your investigation. He is not a suspect. Any insinuation to the contrary will result in the immediate termination of this conversation. Are we clear?" Detective Chen's expression didn't change, but I caught the slight tightening at the corner of her eye. "Perfectly clear, Miss Walsh. We simply trying to understand Mr. Morini's relationship with the victim and whether he has any information that could help us find the shooters." "Then let us proceed on that basis," Catherine said, sitting down and nodding at me. As I was saying, I continued, "My relationship with Sophie is not what you think, but I have immense respect for her. She fought for my nephew like he was her own when he was dying. People like that are rare anywhere. A noble sentiment, Reeves said, his skepticism palpable. But forgive us for digging. In our experience, when a man with your background takes an interest in a civilian, it usually doesn't top all for the civilian. Catherine's hand slapped the table. Detective, that is borderline slanderous. My client runs legitimate import, export, real estate, and hospitality businesses. If you have evidence of a crime, charge him. If not, ask questions relevant to this case. Detective Chen shot her partner a glare before turning back to me. Let us try a different approach. Mr. Morini, do you know of anyone who would target Sophie Valentin? Did she mention any enemies or recent unusual encounters? I shook my head. Sophie doesn't have enemies. Detective. She is a pediatric nurse. She saves children and comforts worried parents for a living. The idea of someone wanting to hurt her is absurd. But someone did, Chen pointed out. 2 professional gunmen. This wasn't random. Our initial theory is that Sophie witnessed something. This matched what Nurse Patricia had said. Witnessed what? Reeves flipped through his notebook. We're still piecing it together, but there is a complication. The third victim, Daniel Castellano, the lawyer. He was involved in a case concerning Senator Richard Harwood. Castellano was about to testify before a grand jury about financial irregularities in the senator's campaign funds. My brain immediately started connecting the dots. Senator Harwood was a political fixture in Cresthaven with rumored ties to various criminal enterprises. If Castellano was about to testify against him and Sophie happened to witness something related, you think the hit was for Castellano, I said slowly, and Sophie was collateral damage. It is one theory, Chen confirmed, but there is another. The surveillance shows Sophie arrived at the parking lot first. The gunmen were already waiting. Perhaps Sophie saw them getting into position. Castellano's arrival just complicated what was supposed to be a clean hit. The thought sent ice through my veins. Sophie wasn't collateral damage. She was the primary target from the start. That meant the threat was far from over once the masterminds found out she survived. Detectives, I asked carefully. I need an honest answer. How secure is your investigation? Are you confident, Sophie? As status 1, TB leaked to the people who ordered the hit. Chen and Reeves exchanged a look. We're keeping a tight lid on it, Chen said. But in a hospital environment, complete information control is impossible. Why do you ask? Because if I were the one who ordered it, and I found out the target was still alive, I would try again immediately, before she could wake up and identify the shooters. Your private facility, Reeves realized. That is why you moved her. You are not just providing better care, you are hiding her. I am protecting her, I corrected. There is a difference, and until she is awake and chooses to leave, she is a patient there, receiving world-class treatment. I am just making sure no one gets a second chance to kill her. Catherine interjected. Detectives, if witness security is a concern, perhaps we can discuss a formal collaboration. Mr. Morini's facility has state-of-the-art security. Under the proper supervision of your department, it could serve as an effective safe house. Detective Chen considered this for a long moment. This is highly unorthodox. Assassinating a nurse in a hospital parking lot is also highly unorthodox, Detective, I countered. Standard procedure doesn't seem to be working. How many officers can you spare for 24/7's protection? 2, 4, and for how long? My facility has a full security team of ex-special forces and law enforcement, working in 3 shifts, with no budget constraints. Tell me honestly, can the CPD offer better protection? They couldn't, he answered, because we all knew the police department was stretched thin and underfunded. Providing the kind of long-term, high-level security Sophie needed was simply not feasible. We need visitation rights, Chen finally said. Regular access to her once she is lucid. And if she chooses to leave your facility, there can be no interference. All agreed, I said instantly. Detective, I want the perpetrators brought to justice. But more importantly, I want Sophie safe. If cooperating with you achieves both goals, I am all in. The deal was struck. As the detectives prepared to leave, Chen paused at the door. Mr. Morini, a piece of advice. Whatever you are planning to do outside of official channels, Don T. We know your reputation. But if you go down that road, you compromise our investigation and any future prosecution. Let us do our jobs. I met her gaze steadily. I have no idea what you are talking about, detective. I am just a concerned citizen worried about a friend. The look on her face said she didn't believe a word of it, but she just nodded and left with her partner. After they were gone, Catherine turned to me, a look of exasperation and concern on her face. Leo, please tell me you are not about to do something stupid. Define stupid. Anything involving violence, intimidation, or obstruction of justice. I stood up, adjusting my jacket. Catherine, you've been my lawyer for 12 years. Have I ever done anything you consider stupid? Yes, frequently. That is why you keep me on retainer. A humorless smile touched my lips. Fair point. But this time, I promise to be careful. Sophie's safety comes first. After Catherine left, I stood alone in the waiting room. My phone was vibrating non-stop with updates. Leon confirming Sophie's safe arrival at the facility. Tony with initial reports on the shooters' identities. Capo's asking about business disruptions. But for a moment, I ignored it all. The life I had built was based on control, of situations, of people, of outcomes. I had long understood that emotion was a weakness, that caring made you vulnerable. And Sophie Valentine, without me even realizing it, had slipped past all my defenses and become vital.
Now, she was on the brink of death because of the violence of my world. The rational part of me knew it wasn't my fault. Sophie was caught up in a mess involving a corrupt senator and a whistleblower lawyer, a case unrelated to my world. But the irrational part, the part that had saved her name simply as Sophie, the part that made anonymous donations just to catch a glimpse of her, knew that our worlds had collided, and she was the one paying the price. I took out my phone and dialed Tony. Tell me you have something. Working on it, boss. Tony's voice came through, the sound of furious typing in the background. The parking lot surveillance gave us a partial plate. Also, the lawyer, Castellano. He was deep in the senator's financial mess. We're talking money laundering, shell corporations, and ties to the Bratva. The Russian Mafia. My jaw tightened. If Russian organized crime was involved, things were 100 times more complicated. They had different rules, and far less concern for civilian casualties. Keep digging, I ordered. I want everyone involved, from the shooters to the man who gave the order. Tony, I want to know who the senator uses for his dirty work. On it, boss. But, Leo, if we make a move on the Russians, even in self-defense, it could start a war. Are you sure you want to light that fuse? I thought of Sophie, lying in that hospital bed, her life hanging by a thread. I thought of her calling my name in her delirium. I thought of her trusting me enough to list me as her emergency contact. If we must, I said coldly, then we go to war. But Tony, this is personal. Get the word out to the whole organization. Sophie Valentine is now under the protection of the Morini family. Anyone touches a hair on her head, they answer directly to me, and make sure that message gets to our Russian friends. They need to understand the consequences of treating a nurse as acceptable collateral damage. Hanging up the phone, I walked toward the exit, a vow forming in my heart. Sophie had saved my nephew's life. Now, it was my turn to save hers, no matter the cost. And once she was safe, I would do the one thing I should have done long ago. Tell her exactly who I am, and then I would walk away. Because someone like Sophie deserves so much better than anything my world can offer. But first, I had some Russians to find. 2 days later, when I pushed open the door to Sophie's room, there she was, propped up against the pillows, still pale, but those warm brown eyes were open and looking at me. Leo, she said, her voice raspy from the intubation. They told me, I'm not at St. Jude's anymore. I approached slowly, as if any sudden move might break this fragile moment. You're in a private medical facility I own. Sophie, you were shot. Her eyes closed briefly, and when they reopened, they were filled with a pain that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. I remember 2 men, they were asking me about Senator Harwood's daughter. Then, another man tried to help me, and then gunshots. The man was Daniel Castellano, a lawyer. He died. But you survived, Sophie. You're going to be okay. She studied my face, and I could see her processing it all. The security, it is because they might come back. They won't get the chance, I said firmly. The shooters are no longer a threat. One is dead, the other is in my custody. The person who gave the order. Let's just say I've made it very clear what the consequences are for trying to harm you. Sophie's expression changed, not to fear, but to a weary understanding. Who are you, Leo? Really, because I don't think you're just a generous, grateful uncle. The moment had finally come. You're right. My full name is Leo Morini. I saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes, followed by a complex emotion I couldn't read. Morini, like the crime family. Yes, I'm the head of the Morini family. I run an organization involved in various illegal enterprises. I'm not a good man, Sophie. I've done things that would horrify you, but I never wanted my world to touch yours. I tried so hard to keep my distance, to keep you away from all this. Then why did you keep coming to the hospital? She asked softly. Why the donations? Why? Was I your emergency contact? Leo, I've been thinking about that since I woke up. You listed me as a contact. The question came out more vulnerable than I intended. I know. It was after that fundraiser. I saw you talking to the kids in the ward. Do you remember? That little girl, Sophia, you sat with her for an hour and made her laugh. I thought, anyone who could be that gentle with a scared child deserved to have a number to call when they needed help. Something cracked open in my chest. Sophie, I don't deserve. Maybe not, she interrupted. But undeserving and unneeded are two different things. You saved my nephew's life, and now you've saved mine, twice. Her gaze searched my face. When you said you let them know the consequences of hurting me, what did you mean? I took a deep breath, deciding to be as honest as I could. The attack wasn't random. You were targeted by Russian organized crime. I took steps to make them understand that you are now under my protection. To attack you again would mean war with the Morini family. Protecting me, she repeated slowly, by threatening to start a mob war, if necessary. Yes. She was quiet for a long time. The doctor said I was calling your name when I was unconscious. Do you know why, Leo? I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Because somewhere deep in my mind, even without consciousness, I knew you would come, she whispered. I knew you would make sure I was safe. For months, I've felt this unspoken connection between us. Every time you came to the hospital, I could feel you watching me. Every time an anonymous donation came through, I knew it was you, Sophie. Let me finish. Her hand tightened in mine. I'm not a naive girl, Leo. I know who you are and what you do. I know I should be scared right now, or at least want to get as far away from you as possible, but I don't. Maybe it is the drugs affecting my judgment, or maybe I've been falling in love with you since the moment I saw you in that pediatric ICU, looking at your nephew with so much love. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. You can't feel that way about me, Sophie. I'm too dangerous. My world is darkness. You deserve better. Shouldn't I be the one to decide what I deserve? She asked, a spark of her old spirit piercing through the exhaustion. Don't I get to decide what I want, who I want to trust? Not if it puts you in danger, and being close to me, becoming important to me, is the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. I stood up abruptly, pulling my hand away, though the action felt like tearing my own heart out. Sophie, when you're recovered, I'm going to make sure you're truly safe. A new identity, a new city, far away from Cresthaven, and far away from me. It is the only way I can protect you. And what if I don't want that? Her voice trembled. What if I want to stay here, live my life, and see where this connection between us goes? Then you'd be making a mistake that could cost you everything. My voice was harder than I intended. The people who tried to kill you are just the beginning. Sophie, there will always be someone looking to use you against me. I can't, and I won't, put you through that. I turned toward the door, needing to leave before I said something. I couldn't take back, before I gave in to the urge to stay. Leo, wait. Her voice stopped me at the door. Just tell me one thing. When you made those threats to protect me, was it just because you're a good man helping an innocent victim, or was there more to it? I stood with my back to her for a long moment, my hand on the doorframe. Finally, without turning around, I said softly, there is more to it. So much more. And that is exactly why I have to walk away, because caring about you makes you a target, and I would rather live with my own pain than ever risk your life again. Before she could respond, I left, closing the door gently behind me. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes, trying to compose myself. Dr. Tanaka appeared beside me, her expression sympathetic. That looked hard. It was necessary, I replied. Dr. Tanaka said, sometimes the brave choice isn't to walk away. It is to figure out how to make an impossible situation work. Her words echoed in my mind as I went to deal with the more immediate problem, Viktor Kozlov and the Russian Bratva. The story that follows is about protecting a hard-won light in a dark world. Will we succeed? Only time will tell. If you've ever made a difficult choice for someone you care about, Share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because our story is just beginning.